Good morning, folks, and thanks so much for tuning in. You are going to hear, because we're outside today doing the podcast from outside, you're going to hear the sounds of birds chirping and who knows what else, the gentle breezes of the wind coming off the lake behind me. So not being in an indoor studio has some benefits. Hope you like the kind of nature sounds, and give me some feedback. Tell me if you like that or not. Very interesting stuff you've got to tune into today. Some behind the scenes things that you're not getting in mainstream media that may surprise you. As you heard over the weekend, and we talked about this on Monday, we said watch for a change in President Trump's confident tone, which was over the weekend, which was that this thing in Iran is just about wrapped up. A lot of pushback from that, a lot of switching around, and now new attacks from U.S. Central Command into southern Iran. And they are targeting missile sites there and Iranian boats. So it is picking up for sure. It is not, in fact, does not seem to be dropping off. And Trump yesterday said, he repeated that the stockpile of enriched uranium it's non-negotiable. It's got to go. It's either got to be handed over to the U.S. or be destroyed. He has coming out even stronger than that. And at the same time, the president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, has said that they are digging in even stronger, and he gave a really strong signal to this when he actually drew from a historic incident that happened back in 1982 when Iran actually recaptured one of their cities that they had lost in the Iran-Iraq war. They use that, it's kind of like their Alamo when they talk about Komar Sharar. And the fact that they say that back in 1982 they used citizen warriors and they beat back the Iraqi army, and they're going to do the same. It's going to be all the same. It's kind of like they're calling on the Alamo, and they are not going to give up. So heels being dug in on both sides. We're going to see if that leads to increased hostilities or not. We'll talk about increased hostilities. We've been talking about, I've been talking about the Graham Prattner, this guy who's running in the state of Maine, and he's in the primary for the Democrats. He wants to eventually take on Susan Collins, who's the Republican there. And so the more things that are brought out, I think I'd have to say, without exaggeration, some of the most outrageous statements ever from somebody's past profile and their past postings, just outrageous, grotesque. And he, instead of backing down, he's setting a new trend here. Instead of apologizing and says, well, that was then, this is now, he says, no, I'm going to do whatever I can to, as he says, fuel a political revolution. He's digging down even harder. He's done an attack now. You remember there was a movie made about American Sniper, a war hero in the war related to Iraq, and how he was killed. A very tragic, heartbreaking kind of movie. He's attacking that guy. He's saying the American Sniper is not a hero. He's going after wounded veterans. Everything that you could possibly imagine. He is taking on. Bernie Sanders is supporting him, and others are. So some people might be saying, well, this is lunatic because it's so radical, the Democrats will lose. But I don't think it's that. I think the Democrats have done significant polling, and I think they feel there is a large base of it grows every day because of the growing effect of cultural Marxism. There's a growing base among Gen Z, among millennials and others that are responding to these most radical of messages, and they are clinging on to that base. I don't think they're being dumb. They're being politically calculating here. And that's, that even continues in the face of the reflections that Democrats are generally having on the war against Iran, and the picking up intensity and negative feeling towards Israel. And there seems to be support or not a lot of shock in the Democrat voting community, and even in the left-leaning community around the world, when the Iran, their new supreme leader, has come out and saying Israel will not live to see another 15 years. So here you have a case where you have the leader of a country Iran actually saying it right out loud. They want to destroy. Within 15 years, they're going to obliterate Israel from the face of the earth. And yet, not a whole lot. There's some negative reaction, especially for those who understand the importance of Israel. But it's a little bit chilling, the lack of pushback against this Iranian regime that could have a nuclear weapon, and saying maximum 15 more years for Israel is going to be obliterated off the face of the earth. Even mainstream media, they just kind of report it ho-hum, and a little bit of concern there. Well, also some concern around, and this usually happens with presidential candidates, especially as they get older. President Trump is making a visit today to what's called the Walter Reed Medical Center, and there's been all kinds of questions from those who are mainly in opposition to him about his age, about his fitness. There's a question about bruising on his hands, and so he covers his hands in makeup, and he's being more careful when he walks. Well, I tell you what, I'm being more careful when I walk these days too. But anyway, he's off to the Walter Reed Medical Center. A lot of people are going to be watching on that today, probably releasing the results either today or tomorrow, so you may want to be tuning in on that. Well, for Canadians who use as a pushback, they think they're fighting back against President Trump and the tariffs by canceling holidays that they normally would have taken to places like Hawaii, and you ask them where they're going, they say, oh, we're going to Mexico, we're going to go to Mexico, or we're going to go to Cuba. So many Canadians would rather support a communist regime, or frankly, a regime in Mexico that is really swarming with criminal activity. And now the media reporting that a serial killer may actually be on the loose in Puerto Vallarta, a very popular resort town. It's popular with Americans. It's popular with Canadians. In a short period of time, there have been the discovery of 3 deaths, 3 women in Puerto Vallarta, and nobody knows where this is coming from. Some are speculating the women could have been killed in another part of the country and just their bodies dumped in Puerto Vallarta, but a little bit of fear gripping that particular Mexican town, which is popular, especially among Canadians. Well, those of you who like using Uber, and I certainly do, I think it's a great service. For the first time now in Canada, we have a local Uber group. These are in Victoria, British Columbia, actually becoming unionized. They've become unionized. They can do that under the British Columbia's Employment Standards Act. They have voted to unionize, and a little bit different. What it's doing is it's requiring the company to pay out incentives. So if they work longer hours, if they get better reviews, then they get higher wages. So that's a little different than a lot of union contracts, which simply say they need to be paid higher regardless of the performance. But watch for this to continue, the unionization of Uber. Now, is that going to, what we see so often with the labor market and the labor unions is they can press so high for higher wages that in fact it actually is an incentive for companies to to become more automated, to look to more robots. So it can be said that unrealistic union claims has actually pushed the whole robot and automation, even in driverless vehicles, to new levels. We'll see what that works out to, but interesting to see how that it continues to work and to move along. In Alberta, where even when I'm on my travels in the United States, and even recently last week, I have Americans asking me, is it true that Canada is going to split up? Is it true that some provinces like Alberta are going to leave? I tell them, look, I think the grievances are real, and the grievances that Alberta has is real. Their treatment at the hands, especially of Liberal governments over a period of generations, is terrible, and it has caused a lot of bad feeling. But I've always said, and I still say, that I don't think you're going to get 50%, over 50% of Albertans saying, let's check out of here. An Angus Reid poll just released yesterday says that about 35% would vote yes, about 35%. That's quite a bit less even than Quebec's referendum, which took place in 1995, and they got 50.5%. They barely survived the vote. However, if it ever does come to a vote, and as you've been seeing, there's all kinds of legal juggling going on about whether there can even be a referendum question. The one thing that the yes side, those who want to maintain and stay in Canada, would have to do, they have to make sure they get out their vote, because the 35% turnout on the exit vote to exit, along with the lukewarm on the majority vote who want to stay, could result in the exit side winning. So we're keeping an eye on that. One of the other things, and we're hearing more about this and reporting more on it, because Prime Minister Carney has said, he's going to really speed up the projects, the pipeline projects, the energy projects. I'm not going to go into a lot of the detail that I usually do in terms of how Canada has really let the world down in terms of leaving so much of our highly energy-based products like liquid natural gas, not coal and oil, and we have not got that to Tidewater and got it to other countries that are desperately in need. And now we see the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, who have bailed out of, remember I've reported on this, they've bailed out of the OPEC agreement. That's the Organization of Petroleum Producing Countries in the Middle East. So it's a good thing they've bailed out. We're not going to be held quite as hostage, but they are going full speed ahead on building a pipeline that will bypass the Strait of Hormuz. They're going to get this done in a matter of months. It is meeting the environmental safety demands, and they're pushing on this. And there are 2 or 3 other countries around the world that are really going ahead quickly with top-level, high-level, very safe pipelines. Canada could run the risk. Even this recent one that Prime Minister Carney says he's agreed on with Prime Minister Smith, if everything goes really, really well and it's not upheld or slowed down by court injunctions, which a number of First Nations are trying to do to stop it, they say it might be online and delivering product by the year 2034. Guys, just consider that for a minute. By 2034, and this is the pipeline where we have federal agreement with. Folks, we are in a real situation where Canada, which could be not just only the wealthiest, one of the wealthiest countries in the world, that means more social programs for our citizens, that means better seniors programs, it means more money for health care. And again, the federal Liberals are still shivering and trembling at the thought of mainstream media attacking them for wanting to produce energy-related products that come out of the ground that can, if transported to other countries, lower the carbon emissions around the world. So it looks like, at least at this point, the Liberals want more than anything to get re-elected, even if it means that as we keep re-electing them, we all keep getting poorer and our social programs continue to get depleted. So we don't know. Keep voting Liberal, I guess, if you want economic stagnation. And if you don't want to see carbon emissions lowered by other countries getting our valuable products, keep voting Liberal. The other thing that people are noticing and talking about, and I mentioned this yesterday, and we went back last week, we've been on this, and now other media sources are really picking it up. I'm not saying that my podcast is the only reason for that, but it seems to be we were the ones who are raising it very strenuously. This thing of judges in Canada going far beyond what used to be seen as human rights, quite properly, human rights based on your sex, based on your religion, based on whether you have a disability or not, that we all have the same human rights, and those being extended now to the homeless, where a city in Ontario was not allowed to get rid of a homeless camp, where all kinds of terrible things going on. That adds now to the right. There was also a right that was won based on the Charter. The right to do drugs in playgrounds was seen as an inalienable right. And the right to have bike lanes. It's getting ridiculous. There's a good column on that today by Tristan Hopper if you want to check that out. And also in Canada, when I travel, and when I was recently last week in the United States, they were asking about what we call our MAID legislation. That's medical assisted suicide, I say, but dying. And we've got quite a case now. I mean, Canada leads the world in this. Canada is the world leader in doctors bringing to an end the lives of people. It used to be just for, when it first came in, it was just going to be for someone who is quite apparent they're really about to die because of their extreme physical condition, and now all kinds of conditions can qualify. So there's a story that's just out today. A London, Ontario doctor, he's so intent on bringing people to the end of their life and helping them check out of planet Earth. He's been found guilty of actually taking it too far, but he's only going to get a small sentence for this. Stay tuned. I want to tell you about the sentence. But he was treating a patient who had inflammatory bowel disease. So it's gone a long way. I mean, I know many people who have inflammatory bowel disease. Is not a fun thing to have. It's okay to now snuff somebody out if they have that. And this particular person had that combined with some mental health issues. The doctor, who was so desperate to bring his life to an end, even met him for his consultation outside of a Tim Hortons. That's where the guy said he would be. And then later, after the consultation, because you have to apparently still do some kind of consultation, then he personally drove the man to the place where his life was brought to an end. And that was seen as extreme by the Medical Association in Ontario, and that combined with going before the courts. So his punishment for that, he has agreed to 6 months of supervision as a doctor. That was the penalty that he got for taking out that guy. Well, if you think that's getting crazier now too, we're seeing, just as we're seeing what I talked about, this ill thought out view that we should just shut in all of our energy products in Canada, but also in the US. There's a real push to stop the developments of AI data centers. We talked about this yesterday, and I've said, and others have said, that that's going to result in other countries moving ahead with the most incredible technologies imaginable in healthcare, in all kinds of ways to make life better, in construction and engineering, and yes, in weapons development and in military development using AI. And Canada and the US will be left behind. And it's a lot because we are in a democracy, and so locally people can rise up and vote no. They can vote no to having a data center in their area because of the energy and the water that it takes. So Senator Bernie Sanders in the U.S., it's been revealed, and he hasn't denied it, he has brought in some of his campaigning on this. He brought in 2 Chinese professors, and one of them is an active member of he's a counselor of the State Council of the People's Republic of China. So they're not hiding the ball at all, bringing in people from China to convince voters not to have AI centers in the U.S., and it's that same type of pressure in Canada. So we need to really wake up and smell the coffee on this one, folks. Well, with the recent, as I said at the start of the podcast, the recent pickup in activity in terms of military activity in Iran, it's bumped back up again. So we see a U.S. barrel coming up over $100. That's sort of a psychological factor, but it is a factor. It means gas prices aren't dropping as they started to last week, and investors watching very closely. Some people are saying it's going to result in a large economic crash of some kinds, but keep in mind that most people, and you can see this in some of the reporting news today, to have what's called a true economic downturn, there's 3 things that have to be sort of sustained and in place for a period of time, and that's a sustained oil shock. Now, we don't have an oil shock. We have prices bumping up and down, but if that was to stay high, as it did as far back as 1979, you could have some problems. So you have an oil shock and then deteriorating economic data. And the fact is, though, we see some increases in a number of areas, economic data is not hugely devastatingly low. It seems to, as we see, we've talked about this, the stock markets are still having strength largely, again, because of AI development, but you're not seeing sustained deteriorating economic data. And then the banks getting really aggressive in terms of loans and in terms of aggressively raising their interest rates. That also is it's happening. It's bumping up and down, but you have to have those three things happening at once. Deteriorating oil situation, oil shock, deteriorating widespread economic data, and the banks really crunching in terms of tightening. You're not seeing that happen. We wish the war, of course, would get fixed and economics would ease back, but in terms of a massive recession or depression-like crash, it doesn't seem to be in the cards at this point. Well, I tell you an interesting thing. We're in graduation season, and we have wonderful grandkids, and we get to go to a lot of grads over the last few years. This year, we were at a grad, and I was pointing out to my wife, I said, it's amazing in this particular part of the country how so many of the girls look the same. Now, they all look wonderful, and I don't like to judge people on looks, and I'm not doing that. I'm just making a statement that looking for recognizable faces in the crowd of grads, taking pictures, etc., there's an amazing similarity, and I just said it's just kind of interesting. And now I see, yesterday and today, actual reports on the fact that there's an amazing let's say a homogeneity, a common look, same type of hair, same type of blondish with many, same type of eyelashes, same types of tanning capabilities, and it's really resulting in this kind of almost a standard look, not 100%, but a very standardized look at the grad ceremony. So it wasn't something it was something I observed, and now something I'm revealing, and there's even a word for it. Writers, some of the writers who are reporting on this are calling it Instagram face or TikTok face, where the same cosmetic techniques are being used by millions and millions of girls, and let's face it, there's some guys on this too. You look at teenage boys and their hairdos, that big crop of hair that seems to hang down over the front of the forehead, and I say that with envy. I wish I could do that, but it's amazing among boys also, young and older teenagers. So much, not 100%, so much of that look, that big shock of hair hanging down over the forehead. But among the girls, it's been quite pronounced. And really it's because the algorithms, the way they develop is algorithms watch what people are doing, and it just builds on it, and you get this same sense of homogeneity. It's not that girls are more vain, it's that these beauty standards are becoming standardized, and they're driven by the algorithms. An article in Atlantic magazine is concerning, it talks about too, many people using injections, and it talks about adults in North America in general, the use of needles for almost everything you could possibly imagine. I'm not saying that's good or bad, I'm just saying it's hugely on the increase. And injecting oneself to fill up wrinkle lines, to do almost everything. Some of the injections, of course, very needed, and with developments starting with insulin injection, and that's a very positive thing. Other forms, but just everybody is using more needles all the time to make themselves look better. Men even using that, and we won't even talk about the use of men and injecting themselves, but it's phenomenal. I won't say it's out of control, but it's at an incredible rate. And it was just as I was going over and doing the curating on the research on some of this today and yesterday, and then I also try and tie in biblically what I'm coming across in early mornings. And there's an amazing psalm that was written, whether people want to believe the Bible or not, but this, of course, that psalm was written a long time ago. And this particular psalm says that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. So as I was reading that, and then I was reading the panic that we're all in to try and look better, maybe we just need to have a little bit less anxiety, a little bit more acceptance of the wonders all around us and how every molecule we've got, we are amazingly made, and let's not feel the pressure of the algorithm. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.